I am here with Kristaps Brencans, aka Chris, founder, CEO of On the Map Marketing, also a Miami-based marketing agency. They also do stuff with law firms. Today, we're just going to be doing kind of a live conversation. We're going to be talking to him about really how he's built his agency, how he structures it. Chris, what's the ballpark revenue you guys are going to do this year?
Well, our goal is 7 million this year. Last 2 years we were 6, and we can also talk about the back-to-back 6 million years because last year started with a little bit of a scare in economy and everything. So we were almost tracking down, but that was a good turnaround.
Perfect. So just so everyone watching has context, $6-7 million agency, primarily SEO, and we're going to get into all that. So again, if y'all have questions, drop them in the chat here. I'll ask Chris. If you're on Facebook, just keep in mind you don't get to ask questions. It's really only for people inside the program. You can join for just $200, which is less than the cost of dinner in Miami, and you get access to people like Chris to ask.
Right.
So, Chris, why don't we just start? Tell us a little bit about On the Map, how long you guys been in business for, what you guys do. Give us a rundown of the agency.
Well, On the Map's been around, I want to say now 11 years. I joined the company 9 years ago as literally project manager. Brought in also our current CTO, Kaspers Milbergs. So first we built out our web development department and basically all our web development type needs work, and then started going into other directions. But On the Map itself was started, hence the name On the Map. Our guy who started the company, his name is Rick Hoskins. So he was interning for another agency and he was doing SEO and sales same time. And then one day he's just like, wait, I'm an intern and I'm doing both of these things. Like, I'm just going to go start doing my own thing. And the whole concept was actually brilliant because it was already verticalized back in the day, 12 years ago, placing people in the map. And so he would call attorneys and say, hey, I'm going to place you on the map. So that's where the name started, On the Map. And I don't know how many of the audience have been in SEO or digital marketing, but 12 years ago, the map results were like 15, 10 listings, and you would literally just drag the pin, drop it, and you would rank someone in a map. So that was his entire service, and he was charging a lot of money for that time. And that's how it got started. Obviously, algo updates started rolling out, so he had to change the service offering, etc. And honestly, we've just been ever evolving sort of business, from that being the first service offering. Then we started moving up the ladder within different other services and a little bit other verticals. But honestly, the attorneys was always picked as the main vertical before the verticalization was even a thing. And we had another partner in a company. He built a sales team. So we were fully just cold call based. And that's how we got to about 3 million mark. Then we got a little bit stuck, but we'll get into all that. But that's a quick kind of 12-year summary intro.
I remember, I think we were in Chiang Mai. I think I remember talking to you and Rick. You went to Chiang Mai SEO conference.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I remember talking to you both when you were around that mark, the 3 million mark. Yeah. And I remember that you guys were cold calling. You had an account person who was cold calling, selling, and then also managing the SEO campaign. I think they were like $500 a month. Are you guys still in that model, or have you?
No, that was, and it's a great question because that was a pivotal change in our business model. I got into SEO because our SEO offering was very it started. Google always rolling out the updates, and our offering was really based on quantity. We were sort of rolling out these, I would say, custom generated pages that would generate we would roll out 300 types of pages for smaller cities, bigger cities, tons of keywords. And it was an easy sell and it worked really well. It was for a while, it was a really good offering. It was big volume at a good price, but then it just started not working. And we were, just spinning wheels. We would bring clients on, we would lose clients and it wasn't sustainable. And then I started testing I'd say more high competition type of SEO campaigns. And we saw it working for a couple of clients. We were like, wow, okay, we need to go from 500 service offering to 5,000. And at that moment, we had a client actually here in Miami. He's still our client. That was 5-6 years ago. We got him to rank for car accident attorney in Miami. He's still there in top 3 right now. But that was I think it's 7:30. I got a ranking report. I look at it. I'm like, what the hell? All position ones. I'm calling everyone. We're going nuts, celebrating. It's a big accomplishment for the agency and for the client. And that was wow, okay, we need to double down on this. So Rick and we brainstormed this product offering where $5,000, so much money, 4 years ago. Wow, this is a huge offering. Who's going to pay for it? And it worked. People really appreciated, like, they didn't care. The results not going to come right away. They understood, okay, yeah, I want someone that can get me results in these super highly competitive areas. And we started building it out. And also the parallel move that happened, and that was right before COVID, we started building out our account management team, because before that, the sales rep, and that's kind of common concept actually, that sales reps also manage the relationship. So with the higher ticket model, the management also became more complicated. It wasn't just sending reports. It was, hey, we're actually doing link building. Hey, here's your content plan. Like it became a lot more involved. And so now the account managers couldn't really get by just by sending reports. You really have to explain the strategy and get into, I would say, even like fundamental level SEO to manage these conversations well enough.
Yeah.
So then we started building out our account management team. Really, what we did is we increased our prices and we increased our headcount, but to provide a better service offering that is more sustainable, that provides really good results for our clients, that, if they believe in the channel, they're willing to invest, they will see the ROI from it.
100%. So primarily, what percentage of your portfolio is law firms right now? Ballpark?
It's about 80%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is it that you guys, like, what's your primary core offer for law firms?
SEO. It's still SEO. And now a good amount also PPC. But from that 80, about 60 is personal injury lawyers. So for personal injury lawyers, you need to work with some really big firms to be able to run a solid PPC campaign. If it's, if we're talking about some metropolitan cities.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we get stuck in the situation too, where I would say like 90% of our client base is injury firms, for the obvious reasons. Unfortunately, in this country, the only things that really make money in the legal space are people getting hurt and people getting divorced. But man, I mean, like, if you want to have success with an injury pay-per-click campaign, like, they have to spend at least $20,000 a month, and they also have to have enough cash flow to sustain them, because you're looking at like a 3 to 6 month swing to collect on that cash, even though it could be $1 million. But like a lot of small firms, they just can't do it, and PPC is very, very difficult for even though it works.
And I would say even 20 is kind of low. That's you can get started with that, and if that's like your dedicated resource that you can't lose, man, I wouldn't. I think LSAs is still a black box, but people see success with that, but it's just very inconsistent. So I think that's the fear.
Extremely consistent. It's been one of those things for a while. It was kind of like an ace in the hole pitch for us, because we'll do your LSAs for free, because it's not hard to do. But we're getting so many law firms now that are like, yeah, we're not interested. Like, we don't care about LSAs. Like, we've tried them, and there was a period, I think 2 years ago, when they were working like gangbusters. But Google just keeps on changing. They want to make it more democratized in terms of allowing the small guys to play with the big guys. And I think Google doesn't even know what the hell they're doing with that.
Did you hear about the latest LSA update that now LSAs will be showing on brand names?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in SERPs yet, but a lot of people have been talking about it, that now LSAs will be showing up on brand names. So now the brands will be forced to pay for their own LSAs as well on their brand keywords.
Anything to make a buck for Google, huh?
It's interesting, yeah.
It is interesting. I mean, the whole LSA thing is very interesting, but we're actually doing them less and less, because like most firms are, it's not even so much that they don't work, but in the legal space, we don't have to get too deep in the legal space, because it's really just me and you in the space here. But we find that it's one thing to drive more leads, but like, if you don't drive good leads to them, then it actually backfires on you, and they think you're doing a shitty job, even though, like, because the LSAs you just can't control, you know what I mean? And they get so many just like ricochet phone calls from people that it shows up first, they call and they're like, no, we don't do real estate law. or like no, like we can't help you, so it just like burns them out. And when they're paying per lead, it just doesn't work out for them. So talk to me about your standard SEO service. So how do you scope and how do you price your SEO campaigns?
So I like to think we have a pretty unique model, because we're very transparent with the deliverables, and what we like to call it like a band model. So let's say you're paying us $5,000 a month. It's going to be either 10 links or like 15,000 words of content and say 20 hours. That's what you budgeted for. And then when we put together your what we call 90-day roadmap, we'll tell you month one, we're going to be doing, maybe 3 links, 10,000 words of content, and we're going to need 10 hours for technical SEO. So the client knows what's already budgeted. And then we show them, okay, month 2, we don't need any more technical hours, only a little bit to publish your content. But now it's going to shift more into content. And then like, as the time goes on, they see those budgets shift more into link building away from content writing. And also that presents a good opportunity to go back to a client and say, hey, we came up with this idea to launch these new location pages or service pages. Why don't you do additional content writing package that you can add to your, it's not like a new ongoing retainer, but it's a one-time, what we call increase upsell. And it works because clients are like, yeah, I have your trust, and this is just going to speed up my campaign. So it's not like trying to sell them something they don't need. It's very strategy driven. You show them, hey, if we add, and same goes for backlinks. So, hey, actually, if we build a little bit more links here, you're going to move that keyword faster. So that model works really well. And we show it in our contracts. And then that contract concept where you have the scope of work, we show them you're going to get up to X amount of links, up to X amount of content. And then when they start the campaign, that reflects for the ongoing strategy execution, because then the account managers with the SEO, we have internally a calculator that we see, okay, the budget's this much. Okay, that's what I'm working with. Otherwise, the margins and everything just can get really out of hand because people will be like, well, I want to build more links for my client. Like, wait, what are you doing? You can't. This is what's budgeted. And I think that's where a lot of agencies get stuck because, margins is everything. If you can't keep your margins, it's going to be hard to grow.
100%. And in terms of the length of your contracts, are they 90 days and then you reassess?
By default, we propose a year contract. And then we'll do 6. The least we'll do is 4, but we're not too excited about the 4-month contracts.
How do you handle law firms? Because, being in the space too, they're so gun shy. They've been burned so many times. Like, talk to me through like your pitch to get them to comfortably sign 12 months. And in that 12 months, do they have any out clauses, or they're in there for 12 months no matter what? No
out clause. They are in the 12 months. The pitch is very consultative, and it's 2 steps. First, we do a discovery to even identify if the person is. If you came to me and said, I have $2,000 and I want to rank for personal injury keywords in Houston, let's say it's not going to happen. We're honest on that level. Now, if you find a little suburb and you want to focus only on the map results, that could work. So that's where we need to adjust already their expectations. But let's say you did want to go in Houston and you have a decent budget, then it's a full consultative presentation where we break down the competitors. We explain to them what are they missing compared to their competitors. And then based on that model, we then go into the deliverable proposal. We're like, hey, well, we showed you, you're short on backlinks compared to your competitors. And, we can get into DRs doesn't matter, et cetera, but sometimes those gaps are so obvious that it's clear that, hey, you need backlinks. And then you show the same thing for content. Hey, look at the content that you have compared to your competitors. And then that's really the deliverables. Obviously our strategy hours come in place, but we try to simplify it to a level where, okay, like SEO is more production rather than some magical, black hat work that just gets it done. It's more about building quality links, the spiel, what it is, but really actually executing on it. And when you do it, like the results do come.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a reminder for all the audience here with Chris, CEO of On the Map Marketing, $6 million to $7 million SEO agency, primarily working with law firms. If you have any questions, go ahead and start drop them in now. I'll start firing the way as they come in. So more on your service, Chris. How are you guys handling content right now? Have you started to integrate AI into it? Are you doing full content writing? Are you doing briefs? How are you guys creating? You said 15,000 words per month. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, last month, I think we did 700,000 words of content just across all our clients. So the way it's structured is we have 3 editors that are full-time. Actually, our content department director, she's part of the leadership team. So she oversees the insane production that goes into content. I think in our freelance network, we have about 15 to 20 writers. And it's like a revolving door. We constantly are bringing in, onboarding new writers. We've built out a pretty awesome content portal. Honestly, our entire project management portal is amazing. We use a system called QuickBase. So it's not Asana, it's not Monday, it's none of that. Like we actually built it ourselves. QuickBase is called low code based platform. It's ugly. Everyone hated it at first, but then when you never lose information and everything just gets sucked into databases, you're like, oh, this is awesome. I can actually find every contract, every task, every link we ever built. Like everything's there. So we also built I don't know, your audience probably has worked a little bit with like Salesforce and other platforms where you can build role-based experiences for those job functions. So we started actually building QuickBase with the idea of building out content portal. So when we bring on content writers, they literally can see the queue of content available to them. So working with us as a freelance content writer is amazing because you're almost never out of work. Like you just go in there and you pick up tasks. Of course, there's accounts where we assign specific writers, but a lot of them are already grouped in categories where anyone can pick them up and they have different rates for that. So as far as AI, we are testing things. Obviously not on, what's the guy's name? Jake, the guy who started a content writing AI tool, the SEO heist.
Which one? There's so many of them.
Rick Ward, there you go. Yeah. So, we're not doing things on that type of scale, but I think it'd be foolish as an SEO agency not to test AI content writing. What I think is going to happen is going to be a combination between AI and human edited content writing. We're definitely using it for outlines, for little briefs, and then because in a legal space, it would be a little bit hard to have an AI actually write the content with all the specific laws in different states, etc. But it can be a nice kind of like framework, and then you give it to a content writer, and then they go deeper on it. That works. Actually, another thing that was good. I mean, Google Business Posts are going away, but that was part of the map optimization. It's sort of like one of those soft strategies, but it works. So we're using AI for some of those. And then we have clients also in other industries, like let's say interior design, industries that are not as competitive, or like some home services and stuff like that. That's not as like most competitive niche out there where like the content and SEO quality is just so high. We're testing things there for some service pages here and there. Like it's always a little mix. We're never going all in on like 1,000 pages. So it's definitely part of the deliverable consideration when the SEOs are putting together the campaigns.
And what do you have like a standard cost that you pay per word, per article, just to maintain a margin internally, or does it vary based on the writer?
So it does fluctuate between the writers and type of content they're writing. So it could be, if you're writing guest posts, it's less than if you're writing authority page for an enterprise client. The way we price it for clients is 1,000 words are $250. So that's just flat fee. Yeah. And that's how then we add that as a deliverable in their regular retainer. So we say, oh, you need, 15,000 words of content, then we adjust that from their deliverables. So it's like a calculator. We always remove the necessary deliverable load. Yeah, and that works. I mean, obviously, sometimes we have to negotiate, or if the campaign's not doing as well, we lower that just to execute more content. And then for AI, we're pricing that. I think it was like 30% of that is if they're doing AI content writing, because if we are actually doing like custom content writing with AI, we still have editor go through that content, and only then it gets sent to a client for publishing.
So I know that you guys, you're based in Miami, but I also know that you have a pretty large overseas team. Talk to me about your strategy when it comes to people in hiring, and how you break that down between local, offshore, especially with law firms, right? I mean, communication for some of them is so key. And some of these guys are so asinine when it comes to hearing an accent. They don't react the best always,
Well, myself including, I was pretty insecure at first going into website project manager role.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's like I said all the time, because being here in Miami too, like pretty much everyone on my team, even here in Miami, is bilingual. And sometimes they have an accent. And it like bothers me when people get bothered by it. So I'm like, this person speaks multiple languages. You speak fucking one. Like, where do you get off? Like,
and dude, and the first client I got was this. Can we curse here or no?
Yeah.
It was just this hard ass attorney from Dallas, personal injury, and I'm like, wow, it's the worst case scenario. But I think it's all about your energy, being excited, bringing passion, bringing ideas. Once you get past to that level, no one really cares about your accent because it's, what you can deliver. But to your point about our team structures, I mean, it has evolved so much. When I joined, first it was just US based, and some functions were done like VAs in Thailand and India. Then Kaspers and I, our CTO, we built out first office in Latvia for just developers.
Yeah.
And then that office started evolving because company was growing, our web development work was priced higher than it was needed. And then we started adding other roles. We hired a website project manager actually in Latvia. He had almost perfect English. And I went to Rick, the founder, and was like, look, I don't want to do project management anymore. I'm going to hire a project manager, but don't worry about costs. I'm going to hire him in Latvia. I mean, comparatively, costs were better. So he did pretty well for a while, but we kind of ran into a little bit of time zone difference issues. And that's for like client-facing roles. I think you can get past the accent thing, but the time zone's harder. And then the other part that's harder with people who are not in US, let's say talking about SEO particularly, it's so hard to comprehend like the personal injury or criminal law or any other like really like law specific space. If you're not here, like you're not seeing the billboards, you don't realize how much traffic it's here. So like and maybe this sounds silly, but it's really hard to become the topic experts or even understand a language to a level where like we just got a position 1 ranking for a criminal attorney in Tucson. And I was talking to the SEO and I'm like, what did you do? He's like, well, we just adjusted the content to talk more about the long expertise the attorney has in that location, and that attorney should be looking for someone really nearby them because Arizona, crime is really high there. I was like, wow, like someone, and some of the most talented SEOs in Latvia, and some of the hardest working ones, but it would be really hard for that person to realize that there is some kind of barrier on that. So with that being the case, and us being in Miami, we actually started building out teams in Latin America and those regions.
Yeah.
And currently we have 3 members on our team. One is from Mexico City. We actually brought him on. He's associate SEO director. Then we have another SEO manager in Brazil and another SEO manager in El Salvador. So I don't know, for them, like the exposure to English a little more, and they're the same time zone. So that's been working. And then we also this year actually added 3 SEOs that are here in US, like grown and raised here in US. All they've been working on is like US campaigns.
Yeah.
But, SEO has a lot of functions. So we have link building function that's being done in Latvia, and that's working really well. And, a couple other people all over the world. I feel like that's common now.
Hodgepodge. Yeah, we've been focused on Colombia, specifically in Bogota. We've been having
there you go.
really, really good success. My wife is also from there, so I've been there. I've been to the city. I understand it. I understand the local economics there. So, I understood the conversion rate between, basically for every one good US SEO, we're getting 5 to 6 there. And they're really, really good. It's just, it takes a little bit more time to find people whose English is good enough because to your point, the big thing too is just having to really bring them on and onboard them in the legal industry, right? Because the legal industry, it is hard to understand. Even me, I'm still learning so much about it. Talking to these guys on a nonstop basis, it does require a certain level of SEO is one thing. Structuring a website content is pretty easy, but there's nuances and there's levels to it for sure. Especially, I think as SEO becomes a little bit less and less impactful and continuously looking for new ways to help clients and solve problems. Knowledge of the legal industry is really important. Got a question from Rob. He said, how do you generate leads? And how do you generate leads in a new niche outside of your core?
All right. I knew this question was going to come. So funny enough, actually, 4 years ago, we started working on our own SEO. So if you want to check out our Ahrefs, go for it. It's been an ongoing effort. And, 4 years is a lot of time, but we committed to it first. What's funny is we actually started, and Rick influenced this. We're trying to build out vertical pages. We're one of the first ones that were ranking number 1 for SEO for lawyers. And what's crazy is we have no idea how valuable that is. We knew it was valuable, but not just for leads. Also because we ranked number 1 and we still had cold calling team. And our cold callers would call the attorney and say, type in SEO for lawyers. And they see us number 1. It's see what we did for ourselves? Imagine what we can do for you.
Yeah.
Done. Like it was the best opening line ever. And also would generate click-through rates for us because it was a brand new IP address clicking on our page. So that worked for a while, but we also launched a bunch of other vertical pages at the same time. So, but SEO, we lost our rankings for a little while because we did something a little bit tricky. We have a little SaaS product called Accessibly, and it's an accessibility widget. And we thought we were going to be really smart. And so like this accessibility, I'm sure you guys all seen these accessibility widgets. And for a while, we were like, hey, let's just point all the links back as do follows. And we had unbelievable amount of links coming back to our site. And it was a little bit too aggressive. And it wasn't manual penalty, but just the site tanked. We had to rebuild it. What actually helped is we bought a new domain. We were onthemapmarketing.com, and then we bought onthemap.com. So when we did a redirect, I brought on a full SEO team just to work on our own site. And this content writer, who's our in-house marketing director, he just started pumping out like really good content. Like this content we ranked before was like subpar, surface level. Man, so he was in content writer in SaaS world, SEO and content writer. He has his own affiliate site. Like this guy, he lives and breathes SaaS world. And I was lucky enough to get him into law firm marketing. Like, no one really wants to write about law firm marketing or contractor marketing or anything of that. But he was excited about the opportunity. And first thing he did was he extracted so much information from us. Like the way he wanted, like product-led SEO, he literally replicated that. And you guys can check out some of our content. Like he would go to a level of like interviewing me, our customer success director, our SEO director, our link building director. How do you do this? How do you do this? And then he took that information and he's putting it in our content, like the deliverable concept you're talking about. If you read our articles, he actually talks about that. Oh, how is SEO priced? Well, this is how it works, deliverables, links, content, etc., like with specific screenshots. So that helped tremendously. And I mean, I'm not trying to paint a great picture here. It wasn't easy right away. It was a big salary too. And like first year, it didn't really kick off right away either after the redirect, but slowly it kept going up. And now this year and last year, honestly, it's been a big driver for our business. About 70% of new business comes from our own SEO. But that's not the only channel. We also do outbound outreach. This year, we started going to conferences. And I mean, that's basically it. I mean, you get, we do good work, so we get also a good amount of referrals.
Yeah.
But I don't like referral. I love referrals, but I don't like to count on them as a lead channel I can predict. I mean, I'm sure you can build averages, how many referrals you get a year, but I like things I can anticipate, like how many leads I'm going to get next week from cold emails. For instance, I know for every conference we go, we're going to close one deal. Like it just has proven in like four conferences we've gone to, we've closed 4 deals. Okay, great.
Yeah.
It's confirmed. Let's do it. It pays off. I mean, it's not like you go to conference and people throw money at you. It's hard work. You need to have sales reps, follow up, like nurturing, relationship building, and this niche is just so competitive. I would not recommend going in it unless you're going like a sub niche.
It's brutally competitive at all levels of it, right? Because when we met 2 months ago, whenever it was, we were talking about kind of the other people in the space, right? And we're it's so funny too. Just before I get into that, but like we were 5 years ago ranking first for lawyer SEO.
Yeah.
And I sold that blog post to Chris Driver.
I remember that.
He paid me a lot of money and I redirected it to him because at that time I was like, I don't like lawyers. I don't really want to work with them. Yeah. And now ironically, 5 years later, here we are trying to act like we care.
But even more ironically, he's not ranking anymore.
No, I know. It's gotten very competitive.
So competitive.
Very competitive. And also too, which maybe you can or can't talk about, I think the other thing that's driving a lot of the competitiveness is the amount of outside capital that's not pouring into the industry, right? PE, venture capital, other agencies just acquiring agencies, Scorpion's won 150 million. I don't know if you can talk about it, but you guys were invested in or acquired, right?
Yeah.
So the amount of capital that's pouring in because there's so much money in this industry.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of one of the good things about the legal space is that from top to bottom, even the guys at the bottom are willing to spend $5,000 a month on marketing. They could be a solopreneur law firm and they're like, yeah, okay, that's the going rate. $5,000 a month isn't too bad. Then you get to the top of the market and there is just, I think, agencies that are entrenched Chris Law Rank is really good. Scorpion is obviously a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we advertise a lot. We get all of our leads through advertising
Mm-hmm.
and content marketing. And like what we're competing against is all these little shithead kids that are just making these crazy guarantees,
Yeah.
like 30 MVA cases guaranteed.
Oh
And
my
we're
God.
advertising against them, competing for real estate. And
Yeah.
that's what we're up against. So just top to bottom, no matter where you try and enter this market, there's a lot of competition. And I think the most underrated part is also the relationships, because this is still kind of
Mm-hmm.
like an old gentleman's network, if you will, in terms of law
Massively.
firms like wanting to do business with people that they know and that they trust. And
Mm-hmm.
even if the people suck at what they do, it doesn't matter. They if they like them, they know them, they trust them. So trying to break into like the networking and conference space is also something that's very difficult
Yeah.
because these guys all also have their guards up, because they've just been burned
Mm-hmm.
so many times before by bad agencies that
Yeah.
even if the agency wasn't bad, it's just really hard to get results. They're now jaded by it. It's a tough space, man. It's a very tough
Yeah,
space.
but same time, where money is, opportunities also are. So like more money coming into it means there are opportunities. Like what I think is going to evolve, and maybe for someone trying to get into like local search marketing space, like if you want to really actually get into the law space, I would look at sub niches. Like I'm seeing people advertising, oh, we do only family law marketing,
Yeah.
bankruptcy only, criminal only. So when you get into that, it's not even vertical, it's like a sub vertical of a vertical. And then you can break into it, because now you're offering something that everyone else is offering that, but now you're able to be specialized in that. But don't just say you're specialized, be actually specialized. Have something that you offer that is, the specialization. What really does it mean? It just means you are bigger expert than everyone else in that one sub vertical.
Yeah.
And why go into these smaller niches is to spend more time in it than anyone else. Like you and I, are we going to be focusing only on bankruptcy attorneys? Maybe family, maybe, but like if someone's doing that 100% of their time, obviously they're going to learn things that other people won't know.
For sure. And that's, I talk about that all the time in the blueprint. And like a lot of people in here roll their eyes at me when I tell them that like you need to specialize, and even specialize within a specialize, like kind of inception, like niche inception is what I call it. Like, because you're right, because when you get into, like, we're using legal as an example, but this applies to home services, this applies to everything, right?
Exactly. Medical is great for sub niche.
Great too. Yeah. But like the difference between injury and bankruptcy, if you don't know that, like if you haven't been through it, you don't know. Like like bankruptcy is a $1,500 case. These guys need to do volume. They need to do 150 to 100 cases a month in order to pay for you, like really pay for you. Pay for you profitably, which means you need to be able to acquire that customer at $400 or less. And like, how are you going to do, like, so it just lends much better to a paid search campaign or Facebook ads. You can figure it out versus injury. Like, and the cost per click on that is much. You can do that. You can acquire customers for 300, 400 bucks, right? If you're good. But when you get in the injury space, like we talked about, like the click is $300, and you have to be able to acquire customers at it's a much higher acquisition point, $2,000 to $6,000, depending on the case value. But like, it's just a whole different cash collection cycle. They're not collecting cash up front. So like, if you don't understand the nuances of this, you're not pitching the right thing. And that's why a lot of agencies fail too when it gets in these competitive bloody waters, because you're walking in with a general SEO pitch and it's like, yeah, I'm talking to this guy, Ryan or Chris, and like, they know like our industry inside out. We actually spent a lot of time collecting data, and we were very lucky that we were given it to by a client. They commissioned this really expensive private search, interviewing stakeholders, interviewing law firms about like the real acquisition cycle of injury law firms specifically.
Oh, cool.
And that has become a cornerstone of our pitch, because because what it says, just in a nutshell, and like I knew this, but like having the data really supports it, is that it talks about, and you'll probably understand this because you work in the industry space, that like the only thing that matters is being first. When you like really boil it down, the only thing that matters is being first. They did a whole study about how the recall on billboards, the recall on brand names, there was a study within the study, it said that 70% of the people who post verdict didn't even recall the name of the law firm that they worked with. Think about that. They had been through, they worked with the law firm post case, and they probably know the attorney's name that they worked with, but they didn't know the law firm's name. So all these guys are spending 100, 200, 300,000 a month on billboards, and nobody recalls that. Nobody knows that. And they do it because it's an ego thing, right? So that leads into our pitch. Like we like start our presentation, like walking through that. And we even like built our own kind of marketing funnel off of it. And it also talked a lot about how like, it just leads right into our pitch. It talks about how when like there's a week long period, right, from the time when somebody's injured or the time when somebody decides to hire a lawyer till the time they do. So you have a week to acquire that customer, but that could be 6 months because a lot of the times in the injury space, especially like talk about construction or car accident, there's a whole different process that you don't think about in terms of what makes that person want to hire a lawyer. And most of the time it's friends and family that are like, you need to talk to a lawyer.
Yeah.
Because the people they are worried about insurance, they're worried about costs, they're worried about perception. If they're a construction worker, like not being looked at as tough or whatever, or snitch or whatever.
Right.
So there's this whole thing that you don't think about, right? When it comes to the acquisition life cycle. And then once they do decide, you have a week. And the study talks about in that week, there's really three things. There's Google is king. People go to Google and they search, they click, they call, right? So your intake and your sales is so important because if you don't get that person on the first time, they're gone. They have a week. It's not 6 months where they're deciding they have 1 week. 2 is YouTube. YouTube is becoming like a really
interesting
search engine. Yeah, that like this is why I told you like we don't do blog content anymore. It's because of this. Because like nobody sees it, nobody recalls it. It has no stickiness. So we're pushing that into like forcing our premium clients to do YouTube marketing because that's taking the place of what blog content, what we think is SEO's blog content does, which is build awareness and like top funnel, blah, blah. But it's really YouTube that's doing that because people are now searching YouTube because Google sucks.
They're running the ads for them or just organic content on YouTube?
Just organic content. So like we're taking our blog content strategy and applying it to YouTube if they want to do it. If they don't want to do it, we'll just create the blog content, whatever they get, what they get. But like we're pushing them to now.
Do you look for search results that have YouTube ranking or not really?
No,
just kind of just taking the regular
YouTube platform. It's like it's just, like people are now just bypassing Google for true top funnel stuff. Like what to do after a car accident or like do I have a case, stuff like that,
that probably would work in other channels too, like TikTok and Instagram
for sure, right? And that's like the long-term plan, but like trying to get that level of content is tough. So anyway, and then the other one is reviews, is that reviews play a very, very big factor in like deciding which law firm to call. So those three things have like really played into our offer and what we're pushing now. It's all still search focused, right? But again, like understanding that, and it took so long for us, like we've been in the legal space now for about 1.5 years, and like you enter in just being like, yeah, we're gonna rank you first, but then you realize like there's just levels to it, and there's nuances, and that's why like if you don't specialize, you don't begin that process of learning, right? Because you
I think and that's one part. Obviously you have to be really good, but also the sales and marketing. I think it's just easier when you know who you're going after rather than like, oh, we do SEO. Well, I'm not a fan of e-commerce. Like I admire people who are in e-commerce right now, like with all the SERP changes. I'm like, hey, good for you, go for it. But like I have a friend who started a pest control marketing agency, and like, he's not doing like millions, but close to $1 million, has a nice client base, and he has like his own like generalist agency. And he has his pest control marketing agency. And like, that's all he did. Like, hey, we're going to market pest control. And then he tells me like, he's like, yeah, people in pest control, like there's those, owners who are still going out and doing their own, cleanings at the houses. Like they're actually doing the pest control stuff. He's like, those are not the best clients because like they're busy and like that's their last dollars. But with the inflation and people just having more money and everything being more expensive, you can still charge $2,000 a month for SEO, for pest control, because they have their subscriptions. Like it's all about that lifetime value, and home services, medical, even like kids vertical. Like you're going to learn more about those, but like I spend so much money on my kids, like gymnastics, soccer, like all these. Now we're just talking to a potential client in it's a swim school, and their average lifetime value of a client is like $5,000, maybe even more, because parents pay like $200, $300, $400 a month for a year, and the kids stay there for 3 years. I mean, you can spend money to acquire that customer. So it's crazy, and it's subscription business. So I think there's a lot of verticals where you can get in by just doing a little bit of research, like maybe find one that you're excited about, maybe have a friend that's in it or something, and kind of double down on it because, I'm talking like I know where your audience is, but I think the verticalization plays a big factor. And you touched on M&A. So what's happening in agency M&A, there's a lot of activity happening, and there's kind of 2 stages. So once you're 5 million plus, you're a great target for PE firms. But before that, you still are a great target, but you have to like be a little bit more creative who could potentially acquire you. There's like, you probably know him, Dom Folio, but he's on Folio. They're publicly traded company. And he's buying like $2-3 million agencies. But what they're looking for is either the verticalization or specialization. So Todd Taskey is an M&A advisor, and he runs a podcast called Second Bite. So he talks about agencies selling to PE firms and then rolling themselves into a bigger agency. And one story was about a specialized agency that all they did was CRO, conversion rate optimization for big brands. Like, again, like you can either specialize in a vertical or you can find this nuanced service. Like right now we're switching from Salesforce to HubSpot, and I'm working with an agency that's pretty much all they do is HubSpot integrations. And I think they're bigger than us. Like literally that's all they do. And they have this referral network where HubSpot actually was like, oh, do you need integration specialists? We can do like onboarding for you. Like, well, I don't really, they were super expensive, HubSpot themselves. They're like, okay, we have a partner agency. Like, what the hell? HubSpot just referred someone to me. Like, and I hired them, and they're not cheap, but like, imagine having distribution like that, where HubSpot is a complete giant, just sending you leads. So there's so many interesting little niches. It's kind of question of what you're passionate about, where's your strong suit, and then building on that and finding that little wheel that just keeps turning.
100%. So I'm at the top. I got to wrap this, Chris. I really appreciate your time today. Always good to chat. Tell the people where the best place to find some more information on you would be.
Probably LinkedIn. Really active there, or Twitter, Kristaps or Chris Brencans. So, happy to chat there. Yeah.
I appreciate you, man. Well, people are saying thank you in the chat. We'll reach out. We'll love to do this again sometime in the future. Always appreciate your insights.
Let's do it at the end of the year. Let's see if we hit our goal.
Yes, you hit your goal, man.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everyone.